I matched with a mysterious guy on Tinder who offered me $1,000 a week to be his sugar baby. He said he only wanted companionship and would pay me weekly. I agreed. I just didn't know that along with the money came ridiculous rules and a house where things move on their own. When I first downloaded Tinder again, I promised myself it was just for fun. No attachments, no expectations. After my last breakup, I didn't want romance. I just wanted distraction, but then I matched with him. His name was Elias Grant, and his profile didn't make much sense. No bio, no selfies, just 3 photos. One of him sitting by a piano in a dark room, another of a massive house behind iron gates, and a third that looked like a view from a balcony facing the ocean. He was older, maybe mid-30s, clean cut, with that calm, serious expression that looks expensive. He messaged first. "I'm not looking for anything romantic. I'm looking for companionship. I can offer $1,000 a week for your time and company." I laughed at first, thought it was some scam, but he sent a picture holding a paper with my name on it, then a Venmo request, and an instant $500 to prove I'm real. That was how it started. Elias told me his only rule was honesty. No lying, no secrets. In exchange, he said he'd never lie to me either. It sounded easy enough. The next day, he sent a car to pick me up. The house was even bigger than in the photos, an old estate on the edge of town, surrounded by trees so dense it almost looked like the forest was swallowing it. The driver said nothing the entire ride. When I stepped out, the gates closed behind me with a sound that made my stomach tighten. Elias greeted me at the door himself, tall, polite, perfectly calm, the kind of man who didn't raise his voice but still made you listen. Inside, the house was spotless, but not warm. Every piece of furniture looked expensive. Every hallway stretched farther than it should, and there were no family pictures. No signs anyone actually lived there. He walked me through the rooms, explaining things like it was a job orientation. "You'll stay here whenever you visit," he said. "You can go anywhere except the West Wing. That part of the house is off limits." That was rule number 1. Rule number 2 was to answer his messages immediately, even if it was the middle of the night. Rule number 3 was never to bring up his family. I didn't think much of it then. It was strange, but the money was real, and he wasn't creepy or pushy. He didn't touch me, didn't flirt. He just liked having someone around while he worked in his study. Sometimes we'd eat dinner together in silence. Sometimes he'd ask me to read out loud while he listened with his eyes closed. The first few days were weirdly peaceful. Too peaceful. Until one night around 2 a.m., I heard something. It sounded like footsteps in the hallway. Slow, deliberate, heavy. I thought maybe Elias was up, but when I looked out, the hall was empty. Then, a door down the hall creaked open by itself. I froze. The air felt colder, like someone had opened a window. When I turned back toward my bed, my phone buzzed. A text from Elias. "Do not leave your room, no matter what you hear." I stared at the message, my hands shaking. I wanted to ask what was going on, but I couldn't bring myself to type anything. The footsteps started again, this time closer, right outside my door. And then, a whisper, a woman's voice. Soft, broken, and coming from inside the walls. "Please, don't let him see you here." I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, Elias acted like nothing happened. He smiled, poured me coffee, and asked if I slept well. I lied. That was the first time I broke a rule, and I think he knew. The next morning felt unreal, like I'd dreamed everything. Sunlight filled the dining room. The smell of coffee and pancakes made it seem like any normal day, except nothing about that house was normal. Elias sat at the table, perfectly calm, scrolling through something on his phone. When I walked in, he looked up, smiled politely, and said, "Good morning, Claire. Did you rest well?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, fine." He nodded once and went back to his phone, like he hadn't sent that terrifying message in the middle of the night, like I hadn't heard a woman's whisper right outside my door. I sat across from him, my mind racing. Should I ask about the noise? Should I tell him what I heard? But then I remembered his rule, no lying, and I'd already done it. He looked at me suddenly, like he could read my thoughts. "You look pale," he said. "You didn't have to lie. The house can be unsettling for newcomers." My stomach dropped. "So you knew something happened?" I asked quietly. He set his phone down, folded his hands, and said in that calm tone again, "There are things about this place I don't discuss. You agreed to follow my rules." That was all he said. No explanation, no reassurance. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but the way he looked at me, steady, emotionless, made it impossible. After breakfast, he handed me an envelope. "Your payment for the week," he said. "You've done well so far." Inside were 10 crisp $100 bills. Money has a strange way of silencing fear. I told myself it didn't matter what was going on in the house. I was just here for companionship. If he wanted secrets, fine. I could live with that. But I couldn't shake the feeling that someone else was living there. That night, I stayed up scrolling on my phone, refusing to fall asleep. Around midnight, I heard something again. Faint tapping from the wall behind my headboard. I pressed my ear to the wall, holding my breath. It sounded like knocking. Slow, 3 times, then silence. I whispered, "Hello?" Nothing. I waited a minute, then another. I was about to step away when I heard it again. 3 knocks, faster this time. I pulled the bed slightly from the wall and shined my phone flashlight at the crack. For a second, I thought I saw a shadow move on the other side. I backed away, heart racing. "Nope," I whispered to myself, grabbing my blanket. That's when my phone buzzed again. Elias. "Go to bed, Claire." My throat went dry. I hadn't texted him. I hadn't made a sound loud enough for him to hear. I typed back with shaking hands. "Me. Are you watching me?" No response. I turned off my phone and lay there, staring at the ceiling. I couldn't tell if I was more scared of the noises or of him. The next morning, I decided I'd leave. I didn't care about the money anymore. But when I walked to the front door, my suitcase in hand, the handle wouldn't move. I tried turning it, pushing it. It was locked. I looked for the keypad near the gate, but there wasn't one. Then I heard Elias behind me. "Going somewhere?" His tone wasn't angry. It was worse, calm, measured, like he'd expected this. "I just need a break," I said. "I'll come back later." He stepped closer. "You can't leave until Friday." "That's how the agreement works." "What agreement?" I asked. "You never said that. It was in the terms I sent you," he said, and smiled slightly. "You did sign them." I remembered the digital contract he'd sent through email. I hadn't read every line. I just wanted the money. He gestured toward the stairs. "Go back to your room. Rest. I have a meeting." I stood there frozen as he walked away. My heart pounded so hard I thought I'd pass out. When he disappeared down the hall, I ran to the nearest window and tried to open it. Locked. Every single one. That night, I barely ate. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the door, waiting for something, anything, to happen. Around 3 a.m., I heard the same knocking again. This time it came from the closet. I swallowed hard and grabbed my phone flashlight. My hands were shaking so much the light flickered across the walls. I opened the closet door slowly. Nothing inside, just clothes and a faint smell of something burnt. Then the whisper came again. "Please, you have to leave before he finds out I'm here." I dropped my phone. The light hit the floor, and for a split second, I saw something. A pale hand sliding between the floorboards. I screamed. The footsteps came almost immediately. Elias's voice from outside the door. Calm, sharp, too composed for someone hearing a scream. "Claire, what did you see?" I couldn't answer. I just stared at the floor where the hand had been. The boards were still, as if nothing had happened. He opened the door and stepped inside. Eyes dark. "Tell me the truth." I pointed to the floor. "There's someone here, a woman. She spoke to me." His jaw tightened, and he whispered something under his breath. Then he said, "You weren't supposed to hear her." "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Who is she?" He sighed. "You broke rule number 1 again." Then he smiled faintly. "I'm afraid you'll have to stay longer now." I didn't sleep at all after that night. Elias's words kept echoing in my head. You weren't supposed to hear her. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that pale hand sliding through the floorboards. The next morning, I expected things to be tense, maybe even threatening. But Elias acted like everything was fine. He knocked on my door gently and asked if I wanted breakfast, as if we hadn't had that terrifying exchange hours earlier. I didn't answer. I waited until his footsteps faded, then started looking around my room for anything that might explain what I'd seen. Behind the curtains, I found a small vent covered by a loose grate. I crouched and held my phone flashlight against it. The metal was old and dusty, but behind it, I saw something that made my chest tighten. A tiny circular opening that led into a dark, narrow space inside the walls. The voice, the knocking. It all made sense now. Someone was in the walls. I pulled the grate slightly, but it wouldn't come off completely. I could only slide my fingers in a few inches before something brushed against them from the other side, something cold and soft. I yanked my hand back and stumbled away, heart pounding so fast it hurt. That afternoon, I pretended to nap, but I kept listening. Every creak, every sound made me jump. Around 4 p.m., Elias knocked again and said through the door, "Dinner will be ready soon. Wear something nice." I didn't respond. I just sat there staring at the vent until it got dark. When I finally went downstairs, the dining room looked different. Candles on the table, a bottle of red wine, and 2 plates of steak. It felt too intimate, too planned. Elias was already seated. "I thought we could enjoy a proper dinner," he said. I sat down slowly, pretending to act normal. "Elias," I started carefully, "who's the woman in this house?" He didn't look surprised. He took a sip of wine, placed the glass down and said, "You keep asking the wrong questions." "What does that mean?" "It means you should be asking why she's here." My chest tightened. "Okay, then why is she here?" He smiled faintly, but his eyes didn't match the expression. "Because she broke the rules." For a moment I didn't breathe. The room felt smaller. I stared at him, trying to figure out if he was joking, but his tone was completely flat, like he was talking about the weather. "She wanted more than companionship," he continued. "She lied to me, and lies have consequences." I pushed the plate away. "You're insane," I said, standing up. He didn't move. "Sit down, Claire." "No." He sighed softly, like I was being unreasonable, then reached into his jacket pocket and took out my phone. My phone. The one I'd hidden under my pillow upstairs. "I told you honesty was important," he said. "You've been recording things." I froze. I had been recording that morning, trying to catch the knocking sound. I didn't think he'd ever know. He slid the phone across the table toward me. The screen was cracked. "You won't be needing this anymore." My hands started shaking. "What do you want from me?" "Just obedience," he said. "Follow the rules, and you'll be safe." That word, safe, made me feel the opposite. After dinner, he walked me back to my room like nothing had happened. When he left, I sat on the floor, knees pulled to my chest, staring at the vent again. I whispered, "Are you still there?" For a long time, there was silence. Then a faint sound, not a whisper this time, but something scraping. Then a voice, hoarse and trembling. "He'll lock you in too, if you don't get out tonight." I pressed my face close to the vent. "Who are you?" The voice hesitated. "My name's Lena. I used to be you." My blood ran cold. "He keeps us here. He says he wants company, but when you stop obeying, he hides you." "Where?" I whispered. No answer, only faint crying. Then I heard footsteps in the hall again. Elias's slow, steady steps. I jumped up and backed away from the vent. He stopped right outside my door. "Good night, Claire," he said softly. I didn't answer. When his footsteps faded, I went to my closet and started grabbing my things. I didn't care if he caught me. I needed to get out of that house. I tried the window again. Locked, like before. I searched the drawers, the corners, anywhere that might have a key. Nothing. Then I remembered the West Wing, the one area I wasn't allowed to go. If Lena was right, if others were hidden here, that's where they had to be. I waited until I couldn't hear any movement downstairs. Then I grabbed the small flashlight from my purse and slipped into the hallway. The West Wing door was at the end of the hall, painted the same color as the wall, almost invisible unless you knew where to look. The handle was cold, and when I turned it, it clicked open easily, like he wanted me to find it. The air on the other side smelled strange, old, damp. As I stepped inside, the door closed behind me on its own. The hallway stretched ahead, lined with portraits, all of women. Some young, some older, each one painted in the same stiff, lifeless pose. And in the center of the hallway, under the last portrait, was a small glass display case. Inside it, resting on velvet, was a silver locket with the name Lena engraved on it. I backed away slowly, my chest tightening, when I heard a voice behind me. "I told you not to come here." I turned, and Elias was standing in the dark, blocking the only exit. My back hit the wall as Elias stepped closer. The dim light from my flashlight flickered against his face, and for the first time since I met him, he didn't look calm. He looked angry. He didn't shout. He didn't move fast. He just said quietly, "You shouldn't have come here." My voice came out shaky. "Who are they?" I pointed toward the portraits. "Who are all these women?" He looked over his shoulder at them, like he was admiring a collection. "They were companions, like you. Some stayed longer than others." "Where are they now?" I asked. Elias's eyes met mine. He smiled faintly. They're still here. Something about the way he said it made my skin crawl. Elias, I whispered. I'm leaving, tonight. You can keep the money, keep everything, just open the gate. He stepped closer, until I could feel his breath. I can't do that, Claire. You already heard her. You know too much. He reached out and I flinched, thinking he'd grab me, but instead he took the locket from the display case and handed it to me. She broke the rules. You understand what happens when you break them. I stared at the locket in my hand. It was cold, heavier than it looked. Inside, there was a tiny photo of a girl, Lena. Blonde hair, tired eyes. Elias's voice softened. You could still stay. I don't want to hurt you. I felt my heartbeat in my throat. Then let me go. His smile disappeared. That's not how this works. He turned away and walked toward the door. Before leaving, he said, lock your door tonight. It's safer that way. When he was gone, I sank to the floor. My whole body was shaking. I knew I couldn't stay another night in that house. I waited until everything was silent again, then crept back toward the main hall. My plan was simple. Find any way out, even if it meant breaking a window. On my way back, I passed the study. The door was slightly open and light spilled into the hallway. I peered in and saw Elias sitting at his desk, his back to me, staring at a monitor filled with black and white camera feeds. Every room in the house, including mine, he'd been watching me the entire time. I swallowed hard and stepped away slowly. The staircase to the basement was right behind the study, hidden under a small rug and a wooden trapdoor I hadn't noticed before. The padlock was open. It was stupid, but something in me needed to know. I had to see what he was hiding down there. The basement smelled like metal and mold. My flashlight barely cut through the darkness, and the deeper I went, the colder it got. Halfway down the stairs, I saw a flicker of movement. Someone's shadow. I froze. Lena, I whispered. No answer. When I reached the bottom, I saw what the basement really was. A narrow hallway lined with old wooden doors, each one locked from the outside. And on the walls, numbers scratched into the paint. Dozens of them. One of the doors was slightly open. I pushed it slowly, and my flashlight landed on something that made my knees weaken. A small bed, a pile of torn clothes, and a phone, cracked and dead, sitting on the floor, scrawled across the wall in shaky letters. Don't believe his rules. I turned to run, but someone was standing at the end of the hallway. It wasn't Elias. It was a woman. Barefoot, hair tangled, face pale like she hadn't seen sunlight in years. Her eyes met mine, wide and desperate. Please, she whispered. Take me with you. I froze. You're Lena? She nodded quickly. He thinks I'm dead, but I can still get out if you help me. My throat tightened. How? She pointed toward the far corner of the basement, where a small wooden hatch sat half-covered by debris. There's a tunnel that leads to the woods. I can't lift it alone. I ran to her, pushed the debris aside, and grabbed the handle. It was heavy, rusted shut. Together, we pulled until it creaked open just enough to see dirt and faint moonlight below. That's when we heard it. Footsteps on the stairs. Elias's voice, calm as ever. Claire. I told you not to come down here. Lena's eyes filled with tears. He'll never let you go, she whispered. I looked at the open hatch, then at her. Go. I'll distract him. She shook her head. He'll kill you. Just go, I hissed. She hesitated, then climbed into the tunnel and disappeared. I shoved the hatch shut, just as Elias reached the bottom of the stairs. He looked around slowly, scanning the room with that same eerie calm. You shouldn't have opened that door. I found her, I said, voice trembling. She's alive. You lied. He took a step closer. Lena doesn't exist anymore. She does, I said. And she's gone. You'll never find her. For the first time, Elias's expression changed. He looked furious. He lunged forward, but I grabbed a metal rod from the floor and swung it toward him. It barely grazed his arm, but it was enough. I ran past him, up the stairs, through the hall, and straight toward the front door. When I grabbed the handle this time, it opened. I sprinted out into the cold night air, my lungs burning, not daring to look back until I reached the road. When I finally turned around, the gate was wide open, and Elias was standing at the doorway, watching me go. He didn't chase me. He just smiled. You'll be back, he said softly. They always come back. I ran until my legs gave out. My shoes were soaked, my hands scratched from branches, but I didn't stop until I saw headlights in the distance. A passing truck slowed when the driver saw me stumbling out of the woods, barefoot, crying, Shaking, he rolled down the window. "Ma'am, you okay?" I could barely form words. "Please, just take me anywhere away from here." He didn't ask questions. He helped me into the passenger seat, handed me a bottle of water, and drove in silence. I kept glancing behind us, terrified I'd see Elias's car following, but the road stayed empty. The driver dropped me off at a diner near the highway. I thanked him, walked inside, and collapsed into a booth. I must have looked insane. Hair a mess, dirt on my clothes, barefoot. The waitress gave me a weird look, but brought me a cup of coffee anyway. My hands were shaking so badly I spilled half of it. I pulled out what was left of my phone. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. I turned it on and saw 5 unread messages, all from Elias. Elias. "You left early." Elias. "That wasn't part of the agreement." Elias. "You took something that belongs to me." Elias. "It will be easier if you come back." Elias. "Claire, don't make me come find you." My stomach turned. I wanted to block him, but part of me knew it wouldn't matter. He already knew too much. My name, my Venmo, where I lived. I deleted the app, turned off my phone, and took a bus straight to my apartment in the city. For the first few days, I barely left my bed. Every sound outside made me jump. Every knock on the door made my heart race. But slowly, I started to feel human again. I got a new phone, changed my number, deleted every social media account. I even thought about going to the police. Except, what would I tell them? That a rich man paid me to be his sugar baby and kept a woman in his walls? It sounded insane. I had no proof, no photos, no texts, except the ones he could easily deny. And the longer I stayed quiet, the more I started doubting myself. Until one night, a week after I escaped, I came home from work and noticed something strange. The silver locket, Lena's locket, was sitting on my kitchen counter. I hadn't brought it with me. I remembered dropping it when I ran out of the house. My blood ran cold. I grabbed my phone and called the only person I trusted, my friend Danielle. "Hey," she said, half asleep. "You okay?" "No," I whispered. "Someone's been in my apartment." "What? What happened?" "There's something here. Something I didn't bring." I described the locket. There was silence on the other end. Then she said, "Claire, you said his name was Elias Grant, right?" "Yeah." "I think I've seen that name before," she said. "Hold on." I waited, pacing back and forth, my heart pounding. A minute later, she came back, voice shaking. "Claire, there's an old news article from 2014 about a man named Elias Grant, wealthy real estate heir. It says he died in a house fire in Boston." I froze. "That's impossible. He's alive. I saw him." Danielle hesitated. "The photo in the article, it looks exactly like the guy you described." I sat down slowly. My vision started to blur. No, that can't be right. But then I remembered the house, the way it always felt cold, like it wasn't meant to be lived in, the empty halls, the flickering lights, the way the doors sometimes opened by themselves, and Lena. He thinks I'm dead. What if she wasn't the only one? What if I'd been living in a house that wasn't alive anymore either? I stood up, shaking, and turned toward my living room window. For a split second, I thought I saw him, Elias. Standing across the street, under the streetlight, perfectly still. Watching. I blinked and he was gone. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I told you they always come back." I dropped the phone, my body frozen. The locket on the counter flipped open by itself. Inside, beneath Lena's photo, was another tiny picture, one I hadn't seen before. It was me. I stood there staring at the locket, my heartbeat so loud it drowned out every sound around me. That picture, it wasn't just me. It was a photo of me in that house. Sitting at the dining table, wearing the same white dress Elias had asked me to wear on the second night, but no one had ever taken that photo. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped the locket on the floor. It hit the tile with a metallic clink that echoed through the room. I grabbed my phone and called Danielle again, whispering, "He was here. He knows where I live." She tried to calm me down, told me to come stay with her in Chicago. I threw some clothes in a bag, shoved the locket into my pocket without even thinking, and left. The Uber driver didn't say a word the entire ride to the train station, but I caught him glancing at me through the rearview mirror a few times. When we stopped, he said quietly, "You shouldn't go alone." I forced a smile and said, "I'll be fine." But when I stepped out, I saw something that made my stomach twist. A car parked across the street, black, tinted windows, engine running, the same kind of car that used to pick me up for Elias's visits. I didn't wait to see who was inside. I ran into the station, bought the next ticket out, and found a seat near the back of the train. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe. The city lights faded through the window, and I tried to convince myself I was finally safe, but the peace didn't last long. Halfway through the trip, my phone vibrated again. No caller ID. I almost didn't answer, but something in me wanted to know. I put it to my ear and said, "Hello?" A familiar voice replied. Calm, smooth, controlled. "You left something behind." I froze. "What do you want, Elias?" "You still have the locket," he said. "You shouldn't have taken it. It connects us." "Connects us how?" I demanded. He didn't answer, just a faint sigh, then, "You'll see soon enough." The line went dead. I sat there shaking, surrounded by strangers, realizing no matter how far I ran, he'd always find me. When I arrived at Danielle's apartment, she hugged me so tightly I nearly cried. She didn't ask too many questions, just made me tea and told me I could sleep in the guest room. But that night I woke up to a noise. It was faint, tapping against the wall, just like in the house. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more. I turned on the lamp, holding my breath. "No," I whispered to myself. "Not here." Danielle came running in, half asleep. "Claire, what's wrong?" "You heard it too, right? The knocking?" She frowned. "No, I didn't hear anything." I wanted to believe her, but the sound came again, this time from the closet. I ran and yanked the door open. Nothing there, just my suitcase and a few hanging coats. Then I saw it, the locket on the dresser, open again, glowing faintly from inside. Danielle looked at it, confused. "What is that?" I picked it up, and for a split second, everything around me changed. I wasn't in her apartment anymore. I was standing in the main hallway of Elias's house. The portraits, the smell, the cold air, it was all there. And in front of me stood Lena. She looked exactly like before. Pale, terrified. "You brought him with you," she whispered. "He's bound to the house. And now you are too." My breath caught. "I don't understand. Every girl who accepts his money becomes part of it. We all thought we escaped, but we never really left." Her words made my stomach twist. "Then how do I stop it?" She stepped closer. "You can't. Not while he's still looking for someone new." And then I heard his voice behind me. Soft, steady, almost gentle. "I told you, Claire. They always come back." I spun around, and suddenly I was back in the guest room, gasping for air, the locket burning in my hand. Danielle grabbed me. "Claire, you're burning up! What happened?" I dropped the locket on the floor. The glow disappeared instantly. "I saw him," I whispered. "He's not alive. He's trapped, and now he's trying to trap me too." Danielle stared at me like I was losing my mind, but she didn't say it. She just helped me sit down and said, "Then we'll get rid of it. Tonight." We drove to Lake Michigan just before sunrise. The streets were empty, the sky turning gray. I held the locket one last time, the metal warm against my palm like it was breathing. Danielle looked at me. "You sure about this?" I nodded. "If he's connected to it, maybe this ends everything." I threw it as far as I could. It sank fast, vanishing under the dark water. For a moment, I felt relief. Real, deep relief. But when we turned to walk back to the car, my phone buzzed. No number. Just a message. "You can throw it away, but you'll never drown what's already inside you." And attached to the message was a photo. Me and Danielle, standing by the lake, taken seconds ago. Danielle saw the photo before I could hide it. Her face went pale. "Claire," she whispered. How could he?" I didn't answer. My hands were shaking too hard to type or call anyone. I just stared at the message, my throat so tight it hurt to breathe. We turned in circles, scanning the dark shoreline, expecting to see someone with a phone, but there was no one. Just the wind, the sound of waves, and the empty road behind us. Danielle grabbed my arm. "We need to go. Now." We ran to the car. She fumbled with the keys, swearing under her breath, finally getting the engine to start. I sat in silence, staring out the window, waiting to see headlights behind us. Nothing came. We didn't talk the whole drive back. I just kept replaying his voice in my head. "You can throw it away, but you'll never drown what's already inside you." By the time we got back to her apartment, the sun was coming up. I went straight to the bathroom, splashed cold water on my face, and looked in the mirror. That's when I saw it. A faint, dark mark on my collarbone, thin lines, almost like a burn. When I leaned closer, I realized they weren't random. They formed a pattern. a small, intricate shape that looked exactly like the engraving on the locket. I touched it and my fingers went numb. I stumbled back, calling for Danielle. "Come here, please, look at this." She came running, still half in shock from the night before. "What is it?" I pulled down my shirt collar, showing her the mark. "It just appeared." Her eyes widened. "Claire, that's not a bruise." Before I could respond, the lights in the apartment flickered, then went out completely. We stood frozen in the dark. The silence was heavy, like the air itself was waiting. Then came the sound we both dreaded. 3 knocks, not from the door, from inside the wall. Danielle whispered, No, that's impossible." I grabbed her wrist and pulled her toward the hallway, trying to get to the front door. But as we passed the living room, every window in the apartment fogged up at once. Words appeared, written from the inside of the glass. "Come home!" Danielle screamed. I yanked her toward the door, fumbling with the lock, but it wouldn't turn. It felt welded in place. Behind us, the knocks turned into pounding. Louder, faster, then a voice. His voice, calm, smooth, like nothing strange was happening at all. "You can't keep running, Claire. You said you'd stay until Friday." I turned around slowly. He was standing in the hallway, perfectly dressed, hands in his pockets, the same faint smile as always, but something was off. His skin looked wrong, too pale, almost translucent. I could see faint veins under the surface, glowing faintly like blue light. Danielle whispered, "Claire, he's not real." Elias tilted his head. "Real enough." I stepped in front of her. "You're dead. I saw the article." He smiled wider. "People like me don't die, Claire. We just change form. What do you want from me?" "You already know," he said softly. "I told you the rules. Obedience, companionship. You left, but the bond remains." I shook my head. "No, I broke it. I destroyed the locket." He stepped closer, and the lights flickered again. "The locket was only the key. You were the door." My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would burst. "What do you mean?" Elias looked almost sad. "You didn't think I chose you at random, did you? The others brought me close. You let me through. I didn't understand. But then I remembered the first time he touched me, the handshake at the door. His fingers had lingered, cold against my skin. That's when the mark must have started." Danielle grabbed my arm. "We have to get out, now." We ran to the kitchen, but the moment we reached the door, Elias was there again, standing between us and the exit. He didn't walk. He just appeared. Danielle screamed and threw the nearest thing she could grab, a glass. It shattered against his chest, but he didn't flinch. Instead, he looked at me and said, almost tenderly, "You're wasting time." I grabbed a knife from the counter, though I had no idea what I was going to do with it. "Stay away from us." He smiled faintly. "You can't hurt what's already inside you." Then before I could react, he disappeared, just gone. The lights came back on. The air felt heavier, thicker. The apartment was silent again. Danielle dropped to the floor, shaking. "What the hell was that?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. My hand was still holding the knife, but my reflection in the microwave caught my eye, and for a split second, I saw his face staring back instead of mine. I screamed and stumbled back. Danielle ran to me, trying to calm me down. "Claire, it's okay. But it wasn't. Because when she touched my shoulder, the mark on my skin pulsed like a heartbeat, and for a second, I heard him whisper again, inside my head this time, "You brought me home." After that night, I stopped pretending I could explain what was happening. I knew something was inside me, something that didn't belong. Danielle tried to help. She researched old articles, ghost stories, anything connected to the Grant estate. She barely slept, convinced there had to be a logical reason. But every time she said the name Elias, the mark on my collarbone burned. It got worse every day. I'd catch myself saying things I didn't remember thinking. Once I woke up sitting on the couch with my hands folded exactly the way he used to sit, and I wasn't alone. Sometimes, when I looked in the mirror, my reflection lagged behind, just for a second. My lips would move after I stopped talking. My eyes would stay focused, even when I looked away. I started hearing his voice more clearly. Not whispers now, but full sentences, soft and composed, like always. "You look tired, Claire. You should rest. You don't need her. She'll only make things worse." I tried to ignore him, but he was right about one thing. Danielle was starting to look at me differently. I'd catch her watching me, worried, scared. One night, she said, "You're not yourself anymore. Maybe we should go to someone. Someone who knows how to deal with possession stuff." I laughed, but it didn't sound like me. The sound was too calm, too measured. "You think I'm possessed?" She hesitated. "I don't know what to think. But whatever's happening, it's not just in your head." I wanted to argue, but then I felt it again, the pulse under my skin, slow and steady, like a second heartbeat. Later that night, I dreamed about the house again. I was walking through the West Wing, the portraits watching me, but this time only one was different. The last one, the newest one, it was me. Painted perfectly, standing in that same hallway, eyes open, smiling faintly. When I woke up, the same smile was on my face. Danielle came into the room with her laptop. "Claire, you need to see this." She turned the screen toward me. It was a forum post, dated 2 days ago. Title: "My friend vanished after working for a man named Elias Grant." There was a picture attached, my Tinder profile photo. The post said, "She told me he offered her money for companionship. She went to his house and never came back. If anyone knows where she is, please contact me." I stared at it, heart pounding. Who posted this? Someone named Lena. I felt the air leave my lungs. That's impossible. Lena's gone. I saw her escape. Danielle frowned. "Claire, the post went up after you left the house. If she's still alive, she's out there." The mark on my collarbone throbbed. Elias's voice whispered, "She's lying. She never left." I covered my ears, shaking my head. "Stop. Stop it." Danielle looked terrified. "Claire, what's wrong?" I didn't answer. I just grabbed the laptop and scrolled through the comments. Most were people asking for details, but one caught my eye. It was from a deleted account, posted just a few minutes earlier, Elias G. "You shouldn't pretend to be people who no longer exist." The screen flickered, and the post disappeared. The entire thread was gone, like it had never existed. Danielle slammed the laptop shut. "We're leaving the city tonight. You're not safe here." We packed quickly. I didn't even think about where we were going, just away. But as soon as we stepped into the parking lot, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "Running won't help. You carry me with you." The car alarm went off by itself, the horn blaring until the battery died. We ditched it and took a cab to a motel an hour outside the city. It was cheap, empty, the kind of place no one asked questions. That night, I locked the door, checked the windows twice, and tried to stay awake. But when I opened my eyes again, I wasn't in the motel anymore. I was back in the house. Elias stood in front of me, by the piano, the firelight flickering across his face. "You never left," he said. "You only dreamed you did." I looked down and saw the locket hanging around my neck again. I ripped it off, threw it across the floor, and screamed, "What do you want from me?" He stepped closer, to finish what we started. I woke up in the motel bed, gasping for air, Danielle shaking my shoulders. "Claire, wake up!" I sat up, drenched in sweat. My chest burned. When I looked down, the mark on my skin had spread, veins glowing faintly under my skin, forming the same shape as the gates in front of Elias's house. Danielle's voice broke. "We have to end this. We have to go back there." I stared at her. "You want to go back? It's the only way. Whatever he did to you, it started in that house. Maybe that's where it has to end." The thought made me want to throw up. But deep down, I knew she was right. If I didn't go back, this would never stop, and I wasn't sure how much longer I'd still be me. The drive back to the estate felt unreal. The sky was gray, the highway empty, and the further we went, the weaker I felt, like every mile was pulling something out of me. Danielle didn't say much. She just gripped the steering wheel, jaw tight, eyes straight ahead. Every few minutes, she'd glance at me like she wasn't sure if I was still the same person sitting next to her. When we finally saw the gates, I almost didn't recognize them. They were half collapsed, rust creeping over the iron, vines choking the stone pillars. The place looked like it hadn't been touched in years. I said quietly, "It's different." Danielle nodded. "You ready?" I wasn't. But I said yes anyway. The front door creaked open before we even touched it. Dust hung in the air, thick and heavy. The grand piano was still there, but the keys were yellowed, cracked. Every picture frame on the walls was empty. No portraits, no faces, just blank spaces where they used to hang. "This place is dead," Danielle whispered. I stepped inside slowly. It always was. The air felt colder here. Still, something was calling me deeper. A pull in my chest leading me toward the west wing. When we reached the hallway, I stopped. The same glass display case stood in the center, but instead of the locket, there was a small old photograph, me and Elias. Sitting at that dining table, smiling, the back of the photo said, "Companion number 7, my knees went weak." He's been doing this for years. Danielle looked around. Then where are the others? The answer came from behind us. They never left. We both turned. Lena stood at the end of the hallway. She looked the same as before, pale, quiet, but there was something different in her eyes now. Less fear, more sadness. "Lena?" I said softly. "You're alive?" She shook her head. "Not exactly." Danielle took a step back. "What does that mean?" Lena looked at me. "You brought me out once, but I was never free. None of us were. Elias doesn't die because he's not one person. He's all of us. Every piece of everyone who came here and stayed too long." I felt my throat tighten. "So what am I?" "You were supposed to be the last one," she said. "The house chooses someone it can survive through. You let him in, Claire? He's inside you because you're strong enough to hold him." Danielle whispered. "So she's, what, like a vessel?" Lena nodded. "He made us all that way. Every time one of us broke the rules, he took something from us. Memories, voices, faces. Until there was nothing left but him. I wanted to scream. How do I stop it?" Lena stepped closer. "You can't kill him, but you can separate him. The house binds him. Destroy the house and he fades." Danielle shook her head. "Burn it?" "No," Lena said. "He's part of the house. You destroy it by letting go of what ties you to it." I didn't understand, until I realized what she meant. The guilt. The fear. The part of me that still believed I owed him something. All those rules. All those nights. I'd followed them because part of me thought I deserved whatever he gave me. I took a breath and said quietly, "Then I have to stop believing in him." The air changed. The walls creaked. The floor beneath us trembled. Lena looked around, panicked. "He knows. He's coming." I closed my eyes, heart racing. "No, he's already here." Inside my head, his voice spoke again, sharp this time, desperate. "Don't do this, Claire. You'll lose everything." I whispered. "Then I lose you." The mark on my collarbone began to fade. The air went still. Every light in the hallway flickered, then went dark. When I opened my eyes, Lena was gone. The portraits were gone. The house was nothing but empty walls and silence. Danielle touched my shoulder. "What just happened?" I looked around. The air felt lighter. The house felt hollow, like whatever had been inside it was finally gone. I whispered, "It's over." We walked out together. The sky was brighter than I remembered. For the first time, the gates were wide open. As we stepped through, I looked back one last time. The estate stood there quietly. Just a building now. No movement, no whispers. Danielle exhaled. "Do you think he's really gone?" I wanted to say yes. But deep down, I knew it wasn't that simple. Because when I looked down at my reflection in the car window, for just a second, barely noticeable, my eyes flashed the same pale blue as his, and I heard his voice. Faint, almost tender. "I'll always be here, Claire. Companionship never really ends." For weeks after we left the estate, I waited for the voice to return. Every night, I'd wake up expecting to hear footsteps in the hallway, or see the locket glinting somewhere it shouldn't be. But there was only silence. Danielle tried to get me to move on. She said I should talk to someone, maybe even write about what happened. I couldn't. Not yet. The words felt too heavy, too dangerous. We stayed in a small cabin outside Chicago, surrounded by trees and quiet. No traffic, no screens, no reminders of him. At first, the peace felt wrong, like a pause between storms. But slowly, the air started to feel clean again, until one morning I woke up to find something written on the bathroom mirror. "I miss our dinners." My hands went cold. I called for Danielle, but when she came in, the words were gone. She said I must have dreamed it, that stress was playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew what it meant. He wasn't gone. Not yet. That night, I sat outside alone, staring at the woods behind the cabin. "What do you want, Elias?" I whispered. The answer came softly, inside my head. "You know what I want. You." That was always the rule. I clenched my fists. "No, not anymore. You can't erase me, Claire. I'm part of you now." For the first time, I didn't feel afraid. I just felt tired. "Then I'll erase both of us." I went inside, grabbed a lighter from the kitchen drawer, and walked into the woods. The air smelled damp, the ground soft beneath my feet. I stopped when I reached a clearing, the same shape as the gates, curved trees forming an arch overhead. Somehow I knew this was where it had to end. I lit the flame and whispered, "You said obedience kept me safe. I'm breaking that rule." The flame caught on the dry leaves at my feet. The air shimmered, the ground rumbling beneath me. His voice came again, louder this time, angry. "You can't destroy what you are!" I shouted back. "Then I'll destroy what you made me." The wind howled through the trees, scattering embers around me. For a moment I thought I saw him, his face flickering in the smoke, reaching toward me. "Claire, stop!" "No!" I pressed my hand to the mark on my skin and held it there until it burned. The pain was sharp, real. The mark glowed, then cracked like glass. A sound echoed through the clearing, a deep, shattering noise, like something breaking apart from the inside. The air went still. The fire died on its own, and for the first time since I met him, there was nothing. No whisper. No presence. Just me. I fell to my knees, shaking, crying, not from fear, but from release. When I finally looked down, the mark was gone. By sunrise, the woods were quiet again. I walked back to the cabin, clothes covered in ash. Danielle was waiting at the door, terrified. "What happened?" I smiled, weak, exhausted, but real. "It's over." And this time, it felt true. We moved out a week later. I changed my name, deleted every trace of my old life. Some nights I still wake up expecting to hear his voice, but it never comes. The silence isn't empty anymore. It's peaceful. A few months later, I drove past the edge of the old property out of curiosity. The estate was gone. Nothing left but a patch of overgrown field and a few broken stones. I parked by the side of the road and whispered, "Goodbye." The wind stirred the grass once, softly, like a nod, and for the first time since it all began, I didn't feel watched, just free.